Coming up, we'll tackle the question, do you have to be insane to be successful? The Fed makes a hike. We'll break it down. And then a startup that is helping companies fire people. And we coach you up. Let's go. Helping you win at work and in your life by giving you the competitive edge to make more money and more impact. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Excited to have you with us. All right, so this is a fun question. I saw an article on this topic, and I said, let's talk about this. I think some of you have already made your decision. Do you have to be insane to be successful? Now, for some of you may go, okay, Ken, are you trying to be sensational today? No. And we're actually going to attack this topic. And I'm going to weigh in and tell you what I think. Yes or no? So where does this come from? So Forbes did an article about one half of a Nobel Prize winning duo. The two people are a astronomer and physics professor by the name of Didier Queloz and Michael Mayer. And they were both awarded the Nobel Prize for discovering an exoplanet orbiting a solar-type star. Now, some of you are going, I don't know what any of that means. And I'm going to tell you what it means. So those of you who are familiar with Star Wars or Star Trek, right, in sci-fi, the idea that there are other planets that have stars, right, like our planet, the Earth, and the sun is our star. So, all right, so we all get that science fiction. And there's been a lot of people that think that's silliness, and a lot of people in the scientific community believe it's real. Here's the deal. They went through all this unbelievable testing, and despite all kinds of criticism in their process of discovering this exoplanet, they kept going. And they were able to come up with testable proof that they found this exoplanet that had a star like our sun much closer to it than the sun is to the Earth. So that's the story. So this guy, Mark Murphy, does an interview with Didier Queloz. And Queloz comes out and says, I believe you must have a soft insanity, is what he called it. A soft insanity in order to persevere in the face of resistance and criticism, right? So some people just rejecting your ideas and then criticizing your ideas. That's what we're talking about. He said, the soft insanity of success is like a drug. It's an addiction to the novelty. To see a bit further. To be the first one to see something that nobody else has seen. And so therein lies the idea. So I thought to myself, all right, at first blush, when I read the article, I thought, hunch says there are moments where you will seem crazy to people. So if soft insanity means for people who really make a difference in the world and do things that are extraordinary and vision casting and never seen and just totally like, whoa, where's this come from? You face incredible resistance in the form of rejection and criticism. So what keeps you going? No, at first I thought, well, what keeps a person going in this situation is unbelievable desire, a desire to get an answer to a question that is driving them crazy, right? So I started thinking through this. I said, okay, this is great. Let's go to the dictionary definition of insanity, because as I was thinking through this and just processing this article, many times we say that insanity is, they say the definition of sanity is continuing doing the same thing and getting the same result, right? So you don't get the desired result, you keep doing it. And we say, well, that's insanity. And then I thought, well, wait a second. How many times did Alexander Graham Bell start over after getting the same response, which was failure? Or incremental changes, but no success, however you want to look at it. Thomas Edison. I mean, you just take all the great inventors. How many times Did they just keep getting the same result? They couldn't get the breakthrough. They stayed with it. They believed there was an answer there, and they finally saw something that they didn't see before, and voila, it happens. So I thought, okay, I don't know that the way that we, kind of that folklore, the way we define insanity, I don't think that's true. Or is it true, and you actually do have to have bouts of insanity to do something extraordinary that nobody believes can be done? Right? So I thought, so what does the dictionary call insanity? And this is one version. Extreme foolishness or irrationality. So now I thought, I'm digging what this physicist is laying down, which, by the way, the only time in my life that I maybe could even understand a physicist. But I said, I understand this because if we look at extreme foolishness or irrationality, that's in the eye of the beholder. How many of y'all had a political discussion with your friends and family over the last year? And they said one thing, you go, and you're thinking it, maybe you didn't say it, but you're like, you're crazy. Well, you may think they're crazy and their beliefs are crazy, but they don't think they're crazy. And so you think about this and you go, all right, let's just take my lifetime for an example. Let's take the 90s, okay? Early 90s, I'm in college. If you would have told me about a smartphone when I was in college, the way we use these iPhones today, I would have told you, you're crazy. I would have. If you go back to my high school days, 1988 to 1992, and if you would have told me about this thing called YouTube, I would have said, that's nuts. And we could go on and on and on. So this idea that you have to be a little bit insane, he calls it soft insanity. I'm going to call it what we all use all the time is temporary insanity. The moment where everybody looks at you or the people that are giving you feedback are rejecting your ideas, they're rejecting your vision and saying, no, don't want it. Could be a customer or a potential customer, or it could be friends and family, and they're criticizing it. But you believe in your heart of hearts it must be, and so you're going after it. I do believe then that if we see this in sports, we see this all over the world. People that others have discounted and rejected and dismissed have done great things. Why? Because I actually think they've had some temporary insanity. In other words, they've exhibited what others think is extreme foolishness and irrationality. But it was really conviction. So the jury is out for you. Where do you need to be temporarily insane? Where everybody else goes, it's crazy. They look at you like you're crazy. But you know, I've got the talent. I've got the passion. And this is my mission. See, now that's conviction. And many people will look at that. And they'll say, you're crazy, you're foolish. And you can go, yes, I am. I'm temporarily insane. What are you going to do about it? And just press on. Press on. Despite the criticism, despite the rejection. It's okay to be insane. All right, we'll talk about the interest rates next. So you just landed the new job. Congratulations. You've made it past the interviews and now it's time to onboard with excellence. That's why I created How to Stand Out at Your New Job. This free checklist will help you succeed from day one and may even help you get promoted. These practical steps set you up to add value, help your team win, exceed your leaders' expectations, and ultimately set you up for a successful transition. To get started, just go to kencoleman.com/new. All right, welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. I am your coach so that you can make more income and more impact. That's it. Hey, Ken, what's the show about? You making more income and you making more impact. By the way, you know what that turns into? Mondays don't suck anymore, and you're not dragging all kinds of crap home from the workplace that's affecting your family. That's what I mean by winning at work and in life. Pretty simple stuff. Formula's not difficult. You spend most of your day using what you do best, doing work you love, producing results that matter to you. I got news for you. That's the dream job. It is not the position you fill. It is the emotion you feel. So there you go. All right, a couple stories here we got to get to. Obviously, everybody and their mother is talking about the interest rates. And so I don't want to spend a terrible amount of time on this, but I do want to be, if I can for you, can I be the voice of calm? And we need to talk about the dreaded R word, recession. Not only did the Feds raise rates yesterday, we also now can say we are in a recession, but I'll tell you what I think about this recession and what it means to you. First, let's just look at the details. The benchmark interest rate was raised by 75 basis points. And the Fed has said point blank, they are trying to inflict a little bit of pain, both corporately and personally, to try to slow inflation. This is all an attack on inflation. So they want to see less jobs offered. Not my words. Jerome Powell said this a month ago. And they want to see not only the jobs change, but they want to see everything slow down. They want the supply to catch up to the demand. All right. So this is how they're going. This is not a monetary policy show. I'm not going to get in the weeds, but I'm going to tell you that's what's going on. Now, more importantly, because of the fear factor out here in our world, we also saw that for the second straight quarter, the gross domestic product, that's the economy as a whole, what it's producing, goods and services, declined for the second straight quarter. Now, politics has gotten to be so foolish and silly that there's all kinds of debates across the aisle already this week. Is it a recession? Is it not? Biden White House saying it's not. Jerome Powell says he doesn't think we are. I'm just telling you that up until this moment in history, the technical definition of a recession is 2 straight quarters of decline. Now, here's where this is interesting. Okay? The number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits has increased because companies have announced layoffs or hiring freezes. The housing market is beginning to soften. And consumers are still, but unemployment remains at historic lows, 3.6%. We still have 11.3 million jobs available. And consumers are still showing heavy signs of spending. So that when you hear it's not a recession, it is a recession, none of that matters. Here's the deal. Technically, it's a recession, but it's a soft recession. Very soft, very mild as of right now. Could pick up and get worse. But you need to understand that there are some still healthy economic factors that are present. So that's why I lay that out. It's not the sky is falling. If you want to tighten your belt, it's always smart to do that. But this is not a sky is falling situation. Be prepared. Companies, because they're led by people who succumb to fear, they may do some preemptive layoffs and you may be vulnerable. You should be vigilant, but you do not need to be freaked out or worried because it is still a very, very hot job market as of right now. Okay. So just a little bit of caution to not dive into panic. All right, this story drives me nuts because I'm a man of the people, and I have to call out this nonsense when I see it. This story really got my attention. I can't even believe this. Klarma is a company that you may not have heard of. Better.com, maybe not heard of this company. Both of these companies have done some stunningly awful things to their people. Klarma, their CEO, recently played a pre-recorded video at an all-staff meeting to tell his employees that many of them were about to be laid off. That's right. Everybody's sitting there. This idiot plays a video that says, some of you in this room are going to be laid off. Doesn't tell them who, doesn't say how many. The company then made them wait for 2 days to find out whether or not they were the ones on the chopping board. They then delivered the bad news in a script, and they delivered this to 700 workers, 10% of its workforce, via video calls. The calls lasted 2 to 3 minutes. Sure. 2 to 3 minutes is all you need to rip the Band-Aid off, right? These idiots. Complete and total idiots. Then you know the story about Better.com. If you've paid attention to this show, we shared this. Their CEO laid off hundreds of employees in a Zoom call. Then, if that wasn't bad enough, he accused them of stealing from the company by not being productive enough. So I'm going to fire you and then call you a thief on the way out. A few months later, second round of layoffs happened, and the company accidentally sent the soon-to-be terminated workers severance checks, but they had not told the people they were getting fired. So this is, by the way, after they put the CEO, who did the boneheaded layoff Zoom call from his kitchen, they fired his butt, but then the company still did this. So imagine you go to your mailbox one day after a long, hard day of work, and there's your severance check, and you're like, I'm sorry? I mean, that's right up there with the Jelly of the Month Club letter that came late to Clark Griswold in Christmas Vacation. That was a real smack in the face. Okay, so this is the environment we're in because of how things have changed with Zoom and remote workers. A lot of layoffs are happening with startups. These aren't stable companies. They had a lot of cash infusion. They're trying to get going. So there's a company now, enter in Continuum. Their CEO is Nolan Church. And are you ready for this? Their company, because of what they offer what they call fractional executives. So it's like part-time consultants. And instead of having to hire a high salary executive, you can pay them for portions of their time via consulting. And so Continuum connects these executives to companies this way. Well, what they found out is that a lot of companies who were using their services were asking these part-time executives, can you give me advice on how to lay people off? Folks, this is the world we're in right now. Executives don't know how to lay people off. I'm going to get to this. I'm going to tell you my free advice. By the way, you don't have to pay me thousands of dollars. I'm about ready to give you two-step advice on how to lay people off. But we got companies that are paying executives for advice on how to lay people off. So this guy, the CEO of Continuum, says, we got an opportunity here. So they created an app where basically you can get advice on how to lay people off. Unbelievable. They charge a flat fee for the consulting services through this app. So they created an app. You can sign into the app, and that's how you get the services. It's all app-based, but then it depends on how many people you got to lay off, the fee gets higher. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. So I thought to myself, this is really simple. Hey, leaders, if you got to lay somebody off, 2 steps. Number 1, be clear. Number 2, be kind. In other words, if you had to be laid off, how would you want your leader to lay you off? I would hope that you would want them to be clear with you to explain the whole situation and why you're being laid off. Hit me with the truth, baby. Just tell me, right? It's like the girl who's breaking up with you. You know she's breaking up with you, but she's kind of flying the plane around the airport. Hey, is it another guy? Just tell me. I want to be done with this nonsense. And then be kind. This sucks. But it's part of leadership. Believe me, it sucks for you. Yes, leaders, it does. But it sucks way more for the other person. So just be clear and be kind. All right, more on this next segment. Did you know that just like a product, you have a personal brand? It's the image or impression others form about you based on your interactions. And whether we realize it or not, our personal brand impacts opportunities to grow in our careers. That's why our team created the Personal Brand Survey. It's free, and it will give you personal and professional feedback so you can own your strengths and uncover any blind spots holding you back. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/brand. Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. I am a man of the people. I'm for you, folks. Hello to all the live YouTube viewers that are in the chat room. I haven't shown those folks a lot of love. I call them the YouTube crazies. So what we'll do here, I'm going to do something a little fun. If you got any questions in the chat room right now, fire away. We'll take a couple of those here in just a few moments. Be clear and be concise. I see one here I may get to in just a second, but I want to stay on this theme for a moment because here's the reality. This theme here of virtual firings, is this going to be a trend? We talked about how awful it is, and so I do want to just spend a few moments looking at the other side of this because I know that in an audience this large, a lot of you that watch are in a role of management and leadership. That means you're going to have to let people go. And with the increasing amount of companies in a hybrid work model, which is some days in the office, some days remote, or 100% remote, at some point, you know, as I'm railing on this, some of you are asking the question, I mean, can you fire someone humanely with dignity over Zoom? I think it's a fair question, and I've wrestled with it. Okay, well, you know, what's my position on this, and is it feasible? Yes, the answer is it's feasible because it's simple. It's actually a lot simpler if they're a remote worker and they got to drive 45 minutes to the office for you to fire them. That kind of sucks. So I do like the personal touch, right? But if you spend 90% of your time or more engaging via Zoom and email and digital, and that's the large share of how you communicate, is it reasonable? Now becomes the question. And really, is it going to be a trend? So the BBC did an article on this, asking the question, are we headed to a new norm where people are laid off virtually? And I'm starting to wonder if that's not going to be a trend. Here's why. Primarily because, you know, firing someone is awful. I've had to do it a few times. It's terrible. It's awful. And I got to believe, although I've never done this, I got to believe if I had to fire somebody over a computer, as awful as that is, my guess is it's less yucky than firing them and you're sitting in the same room because you do have the barrier. I think we're talking about shades of awful, but I do think it's less awful. But I think it's enough less awful that leaders will choose this option. Maybe you're afraid they're going to come across the desk at you. They're not going to do that over the screen, right? So I just think this enters into the equation and people go, well, I communicate with them over Zoom all the time. What's the big deal? And so there is a associate professor of organizational behavior at the Ivy Business School at Western University in Canada. Good grief, these titles and the way they lay this stuff out. It's exhausting. He said, that Zoom firings feel so awful because they represent a combination of two bad practices that shouldn't be done in the first place. Firing people in groups and without a direct conversation. And I think he's absolutely right. The reason that these stories make us gasp and the reason that people reacted the way they did and the Better.com CEO lost his job over is because it is truly inhumane. It is treating people with no dignity. See, dignity says, I'm not going to fire you in a group of people. This is a very personal thing, not a group thing. Number two, I'm going to have a real conversation with you so I can look you in the eye. And I can see what you're feeling. I can hear what you're thinking or hear what you're saying. Well, Nicholas Bloom is a professor of economics at Stanford University, says Zoom layoffs are totally reasonable in a world where employees are recruited, trained, and work fully online. Indeed, for fully remote jobs, it would be very odd if the one time you met your manager was for them to fire you. Now, I wrestled with this. I wrestled with Bloom's opinion on this because it's like, I think when you can, you always should do it in person. But he does, at least Bloom agrees that the mass layoffs via online or in person is cruel and absurd. So leaders, I bring all this up to say, if you've got to do it via Zoom, you gotta you got to treat people the way you would want to be treated in this awful situation. You've got to show them some dignity. You really do. So the jury's out. I'd rather do it in person because I think that something this deeply painful is so delicate. It's best handled with the best of human touches in person. However, can it be done? Yes. Can you show dignity via Zoom? Sure. But I would not choose that if it were me. But I think at the end of the day, you got to live with yourself. And if you can answer the question, did I treat that person the way that I would want to be treated in this situation? And if you feel good about that, then that's fine. All right. Let's get to the chat room real quick. I got a few minutes. I wanted to have some fun here. Let's see. I'm trying to find this one here. Okay, Sean is making a comment, but I'm going to comment on this. I work for a good company with a 10% match on my 401k. That should never be a reason for staying. They also paid for HSA. Again, great. Should never be a reason for staying. They're paying for my MBA and me getting my CPA. That is a reason. I made $51,000 a year, but I feel like I should be in financial advising. So, Sean, this is a situation where, because he said, tell me if I'm in a bad job. You're not in a bad job. The question is, are you in the right job? And you've got all these things that would be natural to hold you there. I mean, they're paying for you to get a degree and a really impressive certification. But if you don't want to be a CPA, you staying and prolonging that decision, you're going to regret that. So if you know and you absolutely know that you want to be a financial advisor, then I would begin the process of getting qualified to become a financial advisor. And then I would land a job working for a financial advising company doing that work. And that's when you leave the current company. However, this is in the chat room, so I don't know if they've got any kind of stipulations on this. If you're in the middle of the MBA and you got to stay for another year or you have to pay them back, this now becomes a financial decision. But regardless of how you get out of that situation, you got to determine, do you want to be a financial advisor? And if you do, well, that tells you what your decisions are. Let's see. Tender Warrior. I lost my job on Monday. I'm so sorry. Several people at work caused drama. They got me fired. Oh, no. I was given a severance, but had to sign an NDA about the situation. How should I handle this in interviews? Okay, love this question. So number one, you signed an NDA. So you got to honor the NDA. You signed it, honor it. That's integrity. Number two, it's also being smart because you're making yourself liable for damages if you violate it. All right. So, but what you're not going to do in any future job interviews is go, I can't tell you because I signed an NDA. That creates a lot of yuck, and it makes people uncomfortable. It creates too many unnecessary questions. And I just decided this morning I'm going to do a reel for Instagram and a TikTok on this subject. So I'm going to give this away. Okay, here we go. When you go in job interviews, you don't talk about the past. You talk about the now and the future. So if they say, why did you leave your old company? You don't have to dance around. Well, there was some drama, but I can't talk about it because of an NDA. The bottom line is it wasn't my fault and I got fired. Now we've created all kinds of nastiness that's not going to favor you. Here's the answer to that question. So why'd you leave your former company? What you need to say is, you know what? I'm so excited about the opportunity here. You know, I've always wanted to do this kind of work. I love the work, and you give the reasons. And you just do what politicians do, and you sidestep it. You're not being dishonest. You just sidestep it. And you go, you know what? Nothing worth sharing. It just really came down to where do I want to be now? And I'm really excited to be here. And here's why I'm excited to be here. You change the subject. They go do the work, figure it out that you got fired. You deal with that when you deal with it. But you can't talk about it anyway, so don't bring it up.
If the thought of attending a networking event makes you break out in hives, you're not alone. And I'll let you in on a secret. Networking in the traditional sense doesn't work, but genuine connection is all about relationships. That's why we created Networking the Right Way. This free guide is the low-pressure, high-impact way to overcome the awkwardness, build real relationships, and turn your connections into opportunities. To get the guide, go to kencoleman.com/network.
All right, time for our coaching session. You can join us on a daily basis if you want to jump in. It's a phone call. It's free. 844-747-2577. 844-747-2577. You can also email the show, ask@kencoleman.com, and we'll schedule your call. By the way, I want to point out that if you've got a very sensitive, toxic career kind of nightmare situation, you need some help, but you don't feel comfortable revealing too much, we'll change your name, location, the work that you do so that you can feel free to get some advice. The coaching calls, I mean, I'm going to coach anybody, that we can, but I really want to help those of you that you're feeling like your back's against the wall. You may not have a lot of options. I want to give you that perspective. So know that. It's not that I don't want to coach on the easy stuff, but I'm here for the really messy stuff to help you with some breakthrough and perspective. So the messier, the better is what I'm saying. The messier the situation, the better. Call me. I like to roll my sleeves up. All right. Russ is joining us in Dallas, Texas now. Russ, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. What's up, Russ?
So my question today is, I know what I'm passionate about. I know what I want to do.
Which is what?
So I'm going to be opening up a Christian sports camp that focuses on teaching high school and collegiate athletes who are wanting to go to the next level how to use their platform to share the gospel, and then also providing that elite training to help them get to that point.
Okay.
So that's what I want to do. I don't know necessarily how to get there or what to do in the meantime while I'm working towards getting ready to do that.
What did you call it again? A what sports camp?
A Christian sports camp.
Oh, a Christian sports camp. Okay. And so you want to attract athletes that want to play on the D1 level or college level?
Yes, sir. Yep. And then collegiate athletes who are wanting to go professional as well to get that elite training and exposure that they need.
Okay. All right. So, and your question is, Ken, how do I go about making this a reality?
That, and like, what do I do to bring in income and support my family while I'm getting ready for that?
What kind of income do you need to make?
So right now I'm at 40,000. I'm about to probably take a job in corporate America, doubling that.
Good.
But it's not what I'm passionate about and what I want to do.
Are you qualified? Are you qualified right now to train an athlete? So, my boys, they play football. And so, I've paid for them to have agility trainers and things like that. Are you qualified to do that?
Yes, sir. So previously I was a head collegiate lacrosse coach at the D2 level, and then played collegiate sports, multi-sport athlete all the way up. So.
Okay, great. All right, so I hear what you're saying. I like the move right now to double your salary. And I'll tell you why, because I think the whole goal is to figure out this camp and the training model, because you have two things. I don't have time to unpack all this. But one of your challenges is going to figure out, what is my primary focus? And then the secondary option, is that something that really does fit long term? If it does, how will one feed the other? Here's what I'm saying. I think you have to choose. Is it a camp that equips and encourages high school athletes, maybe prepares them for the next step up? Or is it the individual training for the athletes in college that want to go to the next level? See, those are two very different audiences. You know this. It's a very different clientele. And I think you can be successful in one. I absolutely believe that. How you be successful in the other, that's going to come down to one feeding the other. And you can't do it all at once. I don't think so. My personal
Yes, sir.
opinion is I would never advise you to go both tracks. There's an old phrase that says, if you chase two rabbits, you lose them both. And I think that's a challenge for you. So from a money standpoint, when you talk about margin, the one that's most profitable is you training college athletes who want to go pro. They're hungry. They're at a premium. It's like an investment in themselves, so they probably got family and support financially to do that. Starting a camp for kids is very labor intensive. My guess is the cost can be somewhat high, and I don't know how much margin there is, and it's also very seasonal. So I don't have time to unpack all this, but the day job for you is really smart to sock away as much money as possible for you because you're saving. And if I were you, I'd start the elite training route first and then go to the camp model because I think there's more margin and more profitability in the training model.
Are you wondering if you should leave your current job or stay put? You're not alone. That's why we created the Should I Quit My Job quiz. In just 5 minutes or less, this quiz will help you determine if you're at the right company and if you're in the right role. If you need to make a move, you'll even get practical next steps to keep you moving forward. Listen, stuck is a choice, and life is too short not to do what you were created to do. To take the quiz, go to kencoleman.com/quiz.
Welcome back to the Ken Coleman Show. I want to tell you fine folks that I'm very excited about a video that we're going to put out soon on my Instagram at Ken Coleman. So we were goofing around in the office a little bit earlier today. I'm a big believer in goofing off at work. Now let me explain what I mean. I don't mean goofing off all day long, right? I'm talking about moments of goof off are wonderful for a great culture. It really is. You work hard, but you got to play hard every once in a while. So we have a Nerf football in the Ramsey personality area here where all the Ramsey personalities work, and we've got team members that work with us in there. And so I came out of a meeting, and this was all spontaneous. So I came out of a meeting this morning, and I walked in, and one of my buddies that sits in there, it was one of our brand leaders, he was on the phone, but he was just tossing up a little Nerf ball, and I got all excited. It's that time of year. Friday Night Lights, baby, coming soon. And so I got excited. So I said, hey, he's on the phone. So I said, hey, threw the ball and I caught it. Next thing you know, another guy comes out and we start throwing the ball in there. All that to say, I ran a couple routes, made some great catches. There was a celebration dance. We caught it. I didn't know that I was on video. Somebody was a little sneaky video. And they showed it to me and I've approved it. It's quite funny. But I'm just saying, I want to point out that it's actually really good for culture. It's good for connection. And it's just good for your soul. You're busting it, getting after it. And I have hardly any downtime during the day. I mean, I'm going, man. If some of you looked at my schedule, you'd faint. But there are times where you just steal a moment in a meeting to tell a funny story, to goof off a little bit. It does wonders for you. It does wonders for your teammates. So schedule or just be open to the unscheduled goof off is all I'm saying. A little bonus content today. All right, Ricky's joining us in Pasadena, California, home of the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. Boy, I got football on the brain right now. It's on my brain. Let's go, Ricky. What's going on?
Hey, Ken. How's it going? Calling you here from Pasadena.
Yeah, what's up?
Standing outside the doctor's office, actually, because
is everything okay?
I had a panic attack. Yeah, I had a panic attack probably, Monday?
Oh,
I've
no.
been really stressed out
no.
with the job switch. Basically, what happened was I switched jobs to, a different company doing something that I did, 2 years ago, which I felt, was a step back, triple the work. It's for a better company. I don't know if I should say the company name, but...
No, don't. All right, so hold on one second. I want to make sure I understand you. Are you doing triple the work now? Is that what you're saying, that you were doing?
Yeah, basically, I I had it because I do help desk, right?
Okay.
I did it for an internal for a small business.
Okay.
I did that for the past year, and I was pretty happy.
Great.
There were some toxic coworkers there that, when they talk to me, they could be kind of condescending.
Yeah.
And at times I would think, should I leave this company? They declared bankruptcy, but they somehow came out, over the cliff on top.
But you left them anyway. So you went to the current company.
Yeah, I went to a current company that's it's for a network. Like if you flip the channels, it's a very, very large company.
So large company. And I'm doing 3 times the work.
Yeah, for about $3 more an hour. It's not, it's not toxic, but I don't know. I feel like I made a mistake. It's causing me a lot of stress.
Of course it is. Have you had panic attacks before?
Yeah, I have one. I probably started 6 years ago. I have one. I get them like 2 or 3 times a year, maybe up to 4 times.
And are you seeing a mental health professional on this and to know kind of what maybe triggers these attacks?
No, but that's why I'm going to the doctor now, and I'm definitely going to start, taking it more seriously.
Yeah. I really think a mental health professional, a therapist, somebody who's trained in this type of stuff, this is all very real, but it's stuff in your head, and you need to have the tools, right, to be able to identify what's going on, and then not just a physical response, but a mental and emotional response to this stuff. So I really believe in you seeing a mental health counselor on this, because you can overcome this stuff. You really can. But it is serious enough that you don't want this to happen. You don't need to be going through this 2 to 3 times a year. Okay?
Yeah. I agree.
Right. So what's your what can I help you with?
Basically I'm just I don't know. I've been asking around with people I know, I feel like I made a dumb decision. I don't know if it was the right choice.
Well, let's look into that, because I don't want you to beat yourself up too much. Did you find out in the job interview enough to be able to figure out if this was what you were heading into, or do you feel like they just totally surprised you? They told you one thing and it's another.
No, I knew enough about the role. I did the role before for my first IT job, and I just figured this next go around will be easier for me because I've done it before.
But hold on. What I'm trying to get to is the 3 times the work. The workload is way more intense than what you were doing. Were you aware of that before you took the job?
No, I didn't think it would be this bad.
That's my point. So did you make a dumb decision? I think you need to let yourself off the hook. I don't think you made a dumb decision. I don't think you asked enough questions. In other words, do you think, and we're not trying to blame you here, we're trying to learn from this really quick, and then we're going to talk about moving forward. But do you think there are some questions you could have asked now knowing what you know that would have revealed to you, oh, this may be a whole lot more intense?
Oh, yeah. No, I think there definitely was a lot of questions.
All right, so here's my point. You're not dumb, and you didn't do anything dumb. I would truly call this a mistake.
Yeah.
You didn't ask enough questions. You didn't poke around enough. You didn't call maybe a couple of people who knew somebody that worked over there, and you got the best picture of what was going on. Do you think in any way they misled you on the workload? I don't think they did, because I don't think you asked them enough questions to where they could have misled you.
Yeah, it was kind of like one of those deals where, where you're interviewing, you don't want to say too much.
All right,
it's kind of like they did that on their end.
I get it. But my point is the interview, here's the lesson I want you to learn, because you got a long and great career ahead of you, Ricky. The interview is just as much for you as it is for the company. Right. See, we tend to think that the interview process is trying to convince the company to offer us a job. The interview process is as much for you to decide, do I want to get an offer from these people? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm learning now. And
now, I'm not a mental health professional, but I want to take a stab at something. How long you been at this new company?
I've been here 2.5 months.
Okay, and you just had your first panic attack?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that because you got behind on some stuff, or is it because it's a particularly like a bunch of new stuff came at you? Has this been the most intense week out of the 2 months? Tell me what's going on there.
It hasn't been the most intense week because with this company, with this role, I switch off between calls and then between.
So what
chat.
do you think triggered it?
I don't know. I've just been beating myself up more and more for it, and I think it just got to a point where
beating yourself up. Why are you getting feedback from your leaders or the people you're serving from the help desk? Is that you're not adequately serving them?
No, I think it just the workload was so much less at the last company, and then I realized how much more it is here. This company has metrics they want you to meet, and I'm just thinking, man, this is a lot of pressure.
But have you been able to meet the metrics?
Yes and no for the calls, yes, but for
okay, is that a process?
No.
Is that because you don't have the ability, or is it because it's just too much to keep up with?
Right now, I don't. I just don't know enough.
All right. So my point is, here's what I want you to do. I want you to talk to a coworker and just tell them about the metrics and just get as much feedback as you can, even from your leader. Is there no need to panic right now? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. You just need to go, okay, I'm not necessarily going to get fired, but this may not be the best fit for you, and that's okay. So go find, if you come down to it and say, for my mental health, I need a much different rhythm, then choose that rhythm and be okay with it. Listen, not everybody's built for the boiler room pressure, and that's okay. You're going to be fine, Ricky. Go get some help and then make the right decision for you. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Press on.
Thanks for listening to the Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.